Good afternoon, Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times. On Thursday, September 6th, we've got some news to talk about. First of all, Circuit Judge Mackie Pierce in Little Rock today invalidated Issue 1, the so-called tort reform amendment that was headed for the ballot in November. He said, indeed, his plaintiffs had argued that they rolled up 4 separate issues for voters to consider in one amendment. The Constitution clearly says you should consider only one issue at a time, unless the different parts are reasonably germane, to use the wording of a previous court ruling. Here, they've set a limit on damages and damage lawsuits, such as in medical malpractice. They put a cap on attorneys' fees. They've taken rulemaking authority away from the court, given the legislature review process, and changed the legislative vote requirement on court rules, which Pierce said clearly was a legislative change, not a judicial change, and made the whole thing suspect. But he said this amendment takes away people's rights in a variety of ways. He said the vote shouldn't be counted. This is a good ruling for people who think this amendment's a bad idea. However, it's by far not over. It will be appealed to the Arkansas Supreme Court, and there the outcome is less certain. The court is usually very deferential to the wishes of the Arkansas legislature, which put this amendment on the ballot. It's heavily backed by health organizations and major corporations, opposed by plaintiffs, lawyers, civil libertarians, and even right to life people who think putting a limit on the value of a human life is not exactly showing respect for life. Well, in Fayetteville today, again at mid-afternoon, they're still waiting completion of the sentencing of Randell Shelton. He was the best man in former Senator John Wood's wedding and the middleman for him in his huge bribery scheme, in which, among others, they shipped hundreds of thousands of dollars to a little church college in Springdale and took kickbacks in return. Shelton threw Woods under the bus. He said if he could take anything back, it would be his misguided friendship with John Woods, and he begged for mercy, as did his mother, in emotional testimony. The sentencing guidelines indicate he could be facing a 10 to 12-year sentence. That's not as bad as the 18 years the judge slapped John Woods with yesterday. The judge went on at some great length about the serial thievery in which John Woods engaged, and said he was a grotesque and a depraved person for his long pattern of theft. This might put the fear of somebody in the future legislators waiting sentencing in this case. Maybe it would improve behavior. Could we hope so? That would be nice. One way to get rid of legislators, apart from federal convictions, is term limits. Well, there's a term limits proposal on the ballot to roll back to a previous term limits that a dishonest amendment sponsored by who else? The felon John Woods. Gave people in the legislature 16 years in a single house of the legislature, and also a fat pay raise. Remember to thank the felon John Woods for that. Well, there's a term limits to take it back to 6 years in the House and 8 years in the Senate, with 10 years total service. It's by the old, long-standing term limits group. The State Chamber of Commerce doesn't like this. They like controlling the legislature, which they do with their corporate money, and they like to keep them around a long time once they've rented them or bought them through their campaign contributions. So they filed a lawsuit yesterday to get this thing disqualified. They're going to try and use a law they passed a couple of years ago that makes it very difficult to use paid canvassers to get petition signings. You got to do background checks, have home residences, and do all manner of other things, or they can find ticky ways to disqualify your signatures. That case will go to the Arkansas Supreme Court. Bad news for poor people in Arkansas this week. 4,500 people have been dropped off the Medicaid rolls for failing to report sufficient hours of work over 3 months of this year, and they can't apply again until January. A lot of these people don't know there's a work rule. They don't have a computer. They don't have a smartphone. They don't have internet access. Tough beans for them. They don't have their Medicaid anymore. It's getting national attention, Arkansas's mean policy toward Medicaid people. Well, some more objections are popping up to a committee's recommendation, a hand-picked committee's recommendation, that Arkansas Governor School switch from Hendrix College, the only place it's known for 38 years, to Arkansas Tech. The committee was appointed by Johnny Key. It was loaded with people that would likely be friendly to his view of a change in the system, which has been lobbied for by other conservative Republican legislators. Hendrix is such a terrible liberal place, you know. But it looks like the more important part about Governor School is it's about to change fundamentally. It seems as if Arkansas Tech wants to change this into more of a tech-oriented program, all about the internet and that sort of thing. This reflects, of course, the wishes of Governor Asa Hutchinson. Some people who are longtime backers of Governor School think this will do away with the great thought-provoking discourses that the humanities-related classes at the Governor School once promoted. We don't know for sure until it takes place, but the State Board of Education will make the final decision, I expect, next week when they have that vote on Thursday, that there'll be some people present to have something to say about it. One other amendment of a note, the casino amendment qualified for the ballot yesterday. I said yesterday, and there's been some discussion about whether the existing casinos at Oaklawn and Southland Park have a stand on this. Oaklawn says it's neutral. Southland won't say anything. Here's the thing. If they're not opposing it, they're supporting it. They have the same lawyer that knows how to challenge ballot amendments, as she's already done for the Chamber of Commerce on the minimum wage and the term limits proposal. If they were against this amendment, she'd been there challenging the same canvas petitions that are being used to challenge the other amendments. This will cut their tax rate and be a windfall in profits for them. They're behind it. You can count on that. Sad news today from New York City. Cliff Baker, the founding director of Arkansas Repertory Theater, died early this morning. He'd had a brain aneurysm last week and was not expected to recover and was taken off life supports yesterday. The Rep was hoping to restart next year in a new season with him as a leading figure after financial troubles last year, but he'll be missed. There's no doubt about that. For what the Rep achieved, and it was a lot over the years, it owes it all to Cliff Baker. And finally, we talk here a lot about resistance every day. Well, great resistance popped up yesterday in the person of a senior member of the Donald Trump administration, an op-ed on the New York Times, who said more or less what Bob Woodward's book said. The guy is crazy, and they're working their hardest to keep him from doing stuff that gets us into nuclear war or something terrible. In any event, others are resisting too. I urge you to continue on that path. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.
If you listen to our music, you will feel it. You feel it in here.
The music is surviving, probably more than ever.
We owe it to New Orleans, we owe it to the world to keep it going.
It's a feeling that you have that was deep in you, powerful.
What is Mardi Gras Indian to New Orleans? Mardi Gras Indians is New Orleans.
We created rock and roll. We created swing, you know what I'm saying?